today's training is all about hair cutting. The haircut is one of the most crucial parts of the entire service that's actually going to make this extension wear look not like extensions. So there are a couple things that I really keep in mind. One, you want to make sure you put in enough hair so you have enough hair to cut out. And you want to make sure that you are putting in the proper amount of rows to give the proper haircut. If the client has very, very short layers, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna have to do 3 rows or 2 rows and a half row. So when you have your installation and it's 100% complete, I like to use a razor. I do not use scissors. I feel like the extension hair really dulls scissors. The razor actually gives you a nice soft end, and I feel like it blends seamlessly, and it really helps the client's hair blend with the extension hair. So I always use a razor. Every single time I do a haircut, I switch out the razor. You want to use a brand new razor for every single haircut. And the reason that is by the time you get finished with this haircut and the extension hair, this razor is really going to be shot. It's not going to cut like it did when you first put a fresh blade in. So always a fresh razor. And I always do the haircut in sections. I'll start with the face framing layers and then I move on to the second row. 9 times out of 10, I'm not really cutting into that bottom row. And the reason is that's gonna leave the density of that hair intact. When you start cutting into that bottom row is when you start really losing the fullness on the ends, and the ends can look really, really stringy. So that's why I put enough hair into the second row or do a mini so I have enough to cut away. And the layers are the most important parts. You wanna make sure that you cut the layers first and then you determine the length, because if you really need to put in layers and you really need to blend out the client's hair, you might have to take that length up. So we leave the length for last. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you how we get started with our haircuts, and I'm gonna show you my technique. This might not be the best suited for everybody, and there are always 10 ways to get the same result. So this is just how I do it, and this is how I prefer to do it. So I just wanted to share that with you guys today. So when I start my haircuts, I always start by separating the rows, and I'll start with my bottom row first. So I'll separate this out and I'll cut into the front face framing layers for the client. And this is always what I do first in every single client. So I take out my actual weft. I kind of look at the client's hair and I just cut away at that front. This gives a nice soft line, and as you can see by using a new razor, it really just glides through the hair and it's not ripping. Now, I always inform the client that sometimes we may make adjustments to their haircuts. You may need to texturize or add some layers. We're going to do this side now. I'm separating out the client's hair and I'm simply just sliding my razor down. I'm doing nice fluid movements and strokes. And this is gonna give you nice soft pieces around the face. If the person isn't fond of face framing layers, unfortunately I feel with the extensions you kind of have to have them, because if their hair is shorter, there has to be some way for you to blend their natural hair with the long extension hair. So we're gonna move on to our second row. Again, we're doing our face framing layers. Just sliding that down. Gonna move to this side. Sectioning this out, just cutting the extension hair. Sliding that down to get nice face framing layers. and maybe making just some adjustments to their hair just so everything blends. If they're adamant about not cutting their hair, just remind them that they paid so much for the service. In order for the service to look 100% realistic, adjustments do need to be made to their hair. So I will just inform people of that before I even start the service. Now we're going to move on to the layers. So when layering the extensions to blend with the client's hair, I always take the client's hair into consideration. When I'm layering the hair, I'm only cutting into the top row. If that's your third row, if that's your second row, I literally separate this top row from the rest of the hair. I take a look and see where the client's hair ends. So I will actually take horizontal sections. I'll pull the hair out, and I see where the client's hair ends and where this ends. Now, you may need to angle the client's hair. If their hair is very blunt, then it's going to leave a hard line. So you may need to soften the client's natural hair by just cutting into it. So I'm picking up the extensions. I'm holding it out. I'm looking where the client's hair ends and where the extension hair begins. And I'm literally twisting and cutting while I'm adding layers. And then I pick up my next section. I comb it. I check to see if there's a hard line. I make adjustments to the client's hair. I comb everything out. I pinch the hair and I twist as I cut. Now when it comes to razor cutting, especially if you're using a sharp razor, you really want to make sure that you have a very light hand. Because if you do not have a light hand, you can take out a chunk, and that's detrimental to the entire service. And I'm literally just going around the entire head and twisting and just blending their line out with the extensions. Only picking up this first or topped row. And I'm literally twisting and sliding. And then I gradually work my way around the hair and the client's head, making adjustments to their hair if needed. And then cutting. Letting the hair drop. Now you may also need to go into the client's natural top layer, and you may need to use your texturizing shears to kind of blend some stuff out. Please proceed with caution. As we know, texturizing shears aren't always clients' best friends. Some texturizing causes the client's hair to look more frizzy. So if they have a coarser texture or a curly texture, please proceed with caution. And again, making sure you're taking out enough, but you're not taking out too much. Now, if you feel that this top layer needs to be blended with the bottom layer, I will literally comb everything down. And I will just lightly glaze the razor into the next section not taking out too much. All right, we have our texturizing shears. First, I'm gonna hold up and see if there's any corners left in the hair. First, I'm gonna hold up and see if there's any corners or weight lines left in the hair. I'm literally going to snip into those. And you can see that weight line is already starting to diminish by simply holding up and cutting into their hair. It's gonna blend so much more. Now I'm gonna take my texturizing shears and I'm simply just going to add some, get rid of some weight, add some texture. Sometimes I will hold the hair out and look for a corner in here and I'll cut into this. Again, that's getting rid of that weight line. We want to look at our client head on. We want to check these areas here. So a lot of the times people will have a receding hairline or a hairline that protrudes just slightly forward. So they will have a weight line or really heavy parts right in these front sections. So I like to go in and I really like to angle them so they're softer. And I also like to go in and use my texturizing shears and lighten up this front area. And that is how we do our hair cutting services. Obviously, every single client is going to vary and is going to be different because they have a different starting point and a different end result that they want. So really making sure that you are custom tailoring the haircut per client. And then also making sure that you are taking the time to really do a good haircut. Honestly, haircut should be anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes when it's a new installation. You really want to make sure to take your time. And then we always have the client come back in 2 weeks for a complimentary blowout. And if there's any weird spots or any areas that need to be texturized or reblended because the client's hair is kind of settled in and been washed and they've styled it themselves, we have the opportunity to fix that for them when they come in for their complimentary blow dry. So this is our finished haircut. As you can see, everything is really, really seamless. There is no definition or line of demarcation where their hair is and the extensions start. It turned out really pretty. So this is actually the mannequin head that we keep in the salon, and we use this for our consultation services. So we actually will use this as a demo to show the clients how the service is actually applied, what it looks like, what it feels like, and so they have a better idea of what to expect. Obviously, visual aids are so much more beneficial and definitely work a little bit better than just trying to explain what exactly hand-tied extensions are. So this is our haircut from today. So if you guys have any questions, please comment below and we will answer them for you. All right, thanks for watching.